This tier list isn't right. The meta has changed quite a bit since I made my last one, so today we will update the tier list and placement, setting straight the priorities for your decisions based on the latest information. So the tier list you see here is the first serious video I made. At the time, there were a lot of endgame meta that was not concrete. Furniture was very new, and since then a lot of new heroes were introduced. So we're going to briefly introduce new informative format to the tier list, and then we'll go over to the updates. Here we imported the same list, but the tiers have changed. After matchup specific, I've added a new tier called fragments. Fragments are heroes that are both matchup specific and usually substitute another unit. This is relevant information in multi-set meta in the endgame campaign. There, you may need to fragment certain compositions in order to counter enemy sets. We also removed doesn't fit in 9-set meta. It used to be there, as this caused some confusion since that last tier list, chapter 36 and 37 were introduced. In chapter 35 right now, we still have 5 enemy sets, and the only place we've seen 7 is that in one PvP event. The name escapes me right now, so at least now that tier does not seem very relevant. Now onto the updates, starting with what may be a hot take. Tassie goes in the god comp. She used to be a Mehira substitute, but since the meta has developed, she's still not as common as Mehira, but her early fight CC makes her better in some matches, and because that's becoming more common to see, she's no longer a substitute. She also fits in other sets, like AFKArena or Khazard, and on top of that, her spirit recently got a small buff, so that's giving her a top spot in your endgame priorities. Next, Lorsan. I'm a huge Lorsan fan, but sadly, he goes down 1 tier. He is as good as he used to be in Burst, but there's many heroes competing for his role. His signature item and furniture aren't utility oriented as we wanted them to be. Still a great hero, but sadly goes down. Another one is Zorath. Also goes down 1 tier. Sadly, a great PvP hero that becomes mainstream in the campaign around the end of chapter 33, but his utility in PvP was overhyped in the campaign, where he does not fit with other heroes in this tier in terms of usage. Next, Laika. Laika doesn't change. I just quickly want to mention about Laika's furniture being useful around chapter 34, where she can possibly carry if she has her 9 out of 9, solidifying her slot here more. Rosaline, sadly another hero that goes down. Rosaline is a good support, but her furniture is underwhelming. Don't get me wrong here, she's still very good in Gwyneth sets, and she could substitute Rowan sometimes, but with all the recent big buffs happening around her, she's not as important as she once was. Pharrell does not change. I just want to quickly mention, many people overhype his buff, not noticing how his spirits don't remain around like they used to. Still a strong hero in the upper end of this tier. Damon goes up. When this was introduced, I was one of the first people to say he's gonna be mainstream, you'll all see it, but so many people on Reddit told me he'll be terrible, it's a Bedgrave or an Anarchy kind of thing, his shields are too short. Well, he proven himself beyond doubt. He sees so much usage, goes in energy utility, especially enjoys other tanks to carry up until the very end game. Estrilda goes down. While her role in Gwyneth's set is great, sadly Estrilda is not that global hero we wanted her to be. She doesn't find common usage across other sets like Aaron to justify her past placement, and she competes with many other heroes for her position like Hendrik, Lorsan, Laika, Skriath, and more. Wukong next goes up. His great furniture and signature item in this slower meta, where most mainstream comps except Gwyneth and Aaron take over 10 seconds to win, he got recently buffed in his oversight, letting him consistently ignore damage and CC many times every fight. So he goes great with Talene, Florosaurus. All these heroes enjoy him staying alive for a long time, debuffing enemies, spiraling himself as his side carry, becoming much more common after chapter 32, where his comps are more common to see, like Celos Graveborn, God Comp, and Khazard. Next, Isolde. Isolde goes up as well. Isolde takes only 3 pieces of his furniture and 9 out of 9 to be able to carry. Still not as consistent as other carriers, but definitely seen more often. And next one I want to mention, I remember this, Saurus does not change, despite him sometimes substituting Talene in the God comp. It's a global substitute kind of thing, very specific one at that, where he's consistently worse than her in that role in the campaign. Still a great hero and amazing in the Twisted Realm, but rumors have it that Damon will outclass him in the next patch, so Saurus a hero that is going to see some shift around him. Nemora goes up. Her furniture 9 out of 9 is better than we thought, just like Anther from the Discord said, after the change where she can no longer make frontline Lorsan or Sylvina turn on their team. However, her hitbox should be more consistent, allowing her to work well with Aaron, Nara, Skriath, etc. Next we'll have Ukyo. Ukyo is going to be the pay-to-play hero going down to fragments. His role in Gwyn sets is very niche and matchup specific, and much like Estrilda, he suffers from the amount of substitutes around that set. However, still a good hero if you want to move others like Laika around, and he could possibly find usage as a solo carry in the future. Now, I made that little jump for a bunch of Maulers that I found viability due to their buffs recently. Pretty good news for you Mauler lovers. First, we're gonna have Screg. Screg is gonna go up to 4th set, the second Mauler to break this barrier over here. Screg, a very useful Mauler in the sense that he enables many different endgame comps, Mauler based or invade based in the endgame. Skriath goes up no longer matchup specific with Aaron because Skriath now can work with the rare Mauler comp, sometimes in Gwyn sets and others, making him at the 3rd Mauler to break up this barrier and go up to the upper end of the meta, almost breaking it to consistent meta hero. Tidus, I wanted to mention, remains where he is, but he gets seen more often. Perhaps he's on the verge of ascending to matchup specific, and maybe even higher than that. A very strong hero to keep an eye for. Ulmus, sadly, the tree, as much as I like him personally, goes down. Just does not see enough usage. Try him with Gorvo and Wilder set, people. You'll really like to see the kind of results that he can pull up with that. Drez is going to be the next one. Drez is going to go up, and he's going to go up 2 tiers all the way to matchup specific. Drez, if he's very well invested, he can work as an endgame carry. We've seen it happen. It is against specific comps, and he is very specific in his damage, but when invested, he does work in the endgame. Citrana, same story. Goes past me. I don't really understand how she's that good, but since her last buff, apparently she can carry in the endgame. Beyond me how she does it, but she does it in Mauler sets, usually with Scrag. Numisu, we're happy to see go up to fragments. Numisu, with his totems, has lots of utility in Gwyn sets, Aaron Sophia sets, etc., especially if he fills in a place for a hero that you want to see somewhere else, like Laika or Namora or Tassi. Solis making the largest jump yet ever. She's gonna get jumped 3 stages up all the way to matchup specific, and the reason for that is that we see her when very well invested. Many endgame players have researched those little niche heroes, but we see her carrying in the endgame. It takes a lot of investment to do so, but she has her own damage in her own right, so I guess I analyzed it wrong, but now with all the recent changes that we've seen and all the experimentation, we see her going up all the way to matchup specific. Now for the newer heroes, we're gonna have Ezio. Ezio goes in the 4th set plus global substitutes. He's a unique hero with his buff as predicted, is on the lower end of meta heroes. Maybe with his buff it might put him even 1 tier higher, and we still see him get experimented with in PvP and PvE. So a hero with a lot of potential that's currently pretty consistently useful, still a substitute and not that much higher than that. Théowen, a very sad story. Her scalings aren't good enough, so she finds herself not fitting in 5-set meta. The thing is that she has some good utility, but unless she gets buffed, she's not good enough as is. Now, that's the last update as far as I know. I'd summarize these changes with how currently the meta is becoming slightly slower around endgame campaign, and experienced players are finding usage for Maulers and niche heroes in the endgame, which is always nice to see. As always, let me know if you like this, guys. Maybe leave a like if you did, and I've been Linker. Peace!